Welcome to Birds Play Sports, where we weekly cover Ravens and Orioles news. We're your hosts, TJ and Jared. And in this video, we're going to be doing game recap of our Week 6 loss against the Los Angeles Rams. A loss that we pretty much all expected. Expected the Ravens would drop this game. Expected it to be a game where the Rams offense sort of just pushed us around, which, didn't really happen that much, but, there's a kind of some context behind that, we'll get into later. But,
Hmm.
overall, just, another loss, tallied onto our record, which puts us at 1-5 going into the bye and, a very deep hole that we've dug ourselves into. And, we're basically going to run the table, or get even close to it if we want to make the playoffs,
Right.
coming out of the bye. So just to start, you know, I'll start into the defense and then I'll, ask you your opinions. Just to start with the defense. I do feel like this is one of the defense's better games. I would say, when in terms of just having that, emotional, you know, physicality that, of resilience, I would say. Like being resilient, being locked in the whole game. Defense did a much better job of doing that. But at the same time, I feel like we got bailed out by mistakes by the Rams. I mean, Devontae Adams dropped like four passes. You know,
Yeah.
um, Matthew Stafford was kind of missing some throws. There was a fumble that Matthew Stafford missed. All those things kind of kept us in the game. And it's like I see, so many people on Twitter were talking about, oh, the Ravens defense was a lot better. That's true. But at the same time, we also had those things going for us. And, I'm still not sold on a Zach Orr defense yet, to put it, to put it shortly.
Yeah.
I need to see, tight coverage and not, oh, this receiver dropped the ball, so that's why it didn't happen. That's cool, but I need to see, that as a result of our cornerbacks having tight coverage, not because their hands just have butterfingers that specific play. You know, I will say that Alohi Gilman, having him out there on the field was pretty solid. He did look pretty solid. All us Ravens fans, we thought that we were going to see C.J. Gardner Johnson out there too, but that was short lived because he's not on the team anymore. Which is crazy. But
Yeah, that was crazy.
personnel wise, yeah, personnel wise, I thought it looked pretty good, and I'm interested to see, how it looks moving forward. We're going to be able to do more with Kyle Hamilton closer to the line of scrimmage, so just allowing him to really do whatever he wants, and just play football out there, similar to how the Steelers use Troy Polamalu. I think it's going to be, interesting moving forward.
That should.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and I also like to see, more Aeneas Peebles. Was he a healthy scratch for this game?
Yeah, he
Run game?
was. Surprisingly enough, they went. I think they went three defensive linemen or defensive whatever, nose tackles, whatever you're gonna say, and went like six, seven DBs or something like that. So they were full on in secondary. I mean, we saw it with the two-man pass rush in the one play. So, but yeah, Aeneas Peoples was a healthy scratch.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. Like, we need all the help we can get pass rush wise, and just an interior D line. I mean, we're going to get guys. John Jenkins had a good game. We saw how Aeneas Peebles kind of brings that juice or spark to the D line. It would be nice to see both of them. I just want to see what that combination would be like. And I hear we're in the market to get a pass rusher. Hopefully. So I think right now is the time to kind of experiment, especially because you're getting Lamar Jackson back. You
Hmm.
have a lot of beatable teams in your schedule. You can kind of experiment a little bit. Don't just, try to flip the whole playbook now. But, in terms of certain pieces and moving guys around, you kind of have that freedom. So, you know, just to, put it, summarize it up, and then I'll pass to you. The defense looked decent, structure wise and looks wise, and I'm excited to see what it's going to be like moving forward. But we got to be tighter. We can't rely on guys dropping passes and whatnot or fluke fumbles to you know have us hold our heads on. Like, let's be the causes of that and not the offense itself. So, what's your thoughts on the defense in this game? We were there. What was your
Yeah,
thoughts?
that's true. I didn't get a lot of footage. I didn't get a lot of footage. I think I got like two videos and that's it. And then yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say that I was paying attention. I was just tracking down the records from last week to see what we got right. So I was paying attention. And to prove that I was paying attention, I think that you proved a great point with the defense and something I would have mentioned if I had gone first, where the defense caught a lot of breaks. I mean, like I agree with you. I'm not really sold on the Zach Orr defense just yet. I think they made a lot of leaps. Forward. Obviously, I'm not saying that they were absolutely terrible today, or not today, but last Sunday. And they got bailed out on every play, but they definitely were benefited from Matthew Stafford. What do they say? Not just not like him. His performance. Not Matthew Stafford like performance, and then especially not Devontae Adams performance. Like he had like three or four drops. It was something crazy like that, including he burned Malachi Starks on a. It was actually right in the end zone we were sitting at.
Yeah.
He burned him for a touchdown, but he just dropped it. Or I think it was dropped or it was overthrown. I forgot what it was, but I saw a lot of people giving Malachi Starks kind of flack for that, but I mean, come on, like he's facing Devontae Adams. He's a rookie, and he's had his struggles, but
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm not sold on it either. I'm still very skeptical of it. And then with Tavius Robinson breaking his foot now, he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, I think they said. So that's virtually the whole season at this point. I mean, it's not the whole season, but he's gonna be back in what, like late December at this point.
Yeah.
So not good. If and then you just traded away, so now your defense really has. I mean, we really, and I mean this, like not even being sarcastic, we really have no pass rush. There is nobody on that team that can rush the passer. Don't even start gonna be started with a Jabo. I don't even want to get
Don't
into
trust him.
and
Yeah.
then I'm not if I saw Yannick and Ngakwe, talking about he had the eye emojis on Twitter. I saw people talking about
Yeah.
possible return. No, 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 we're not
He's
doing this.
old at this
Not
point
doing
too.
this old ass pass rush. That's
Yeah.
not. But at this point, I will say this: what else can we do after the trade deadline? Because
We can do better than
what
that.
I'm
Let me just say something. I'm sorry. I'm just getting frustrated because what you said is the exact Ravens move. Let's try to just Yannick Ngakoue experiment again. No. Well, there's Jalen Phillips, there's Dexter Lawrence, there's Bradley Chubb. Look at those guys. And not
But I'm a
Yannick,
counter with this, and it's not something that I agree with. This isn't the way I think, but is ZDC gonna give up picks?
man, he's not doing nothing with those picks anyway. Who has he gotten? Who's
Let's see pass rush
he?
wise. Look, I'm gonna be real. Like if I was a GM, which I'm not, and I'm never going to be. I mean, not gonna. Well, maybe I'm never say
You'd
never.
be a better
But
GM than him.
but look, if there's something that I knew I couldn't draft or scout or develop, that would be what I'd trade for. Like they took all these swings and receivers. They hit on two. Finally, it took them 30 years, but they
Years.
finally did
Yeah.
it. But I don't know if I'd wait 30 years to freaking finally draft a good receiver. I mean, they had Torrey Smith, he was good. Then they let him go. But he's really the only receiver that I can think of on top of my head that they drafted that was really great. Not great, but good. Everyone else like Derek Mason, Anquan Bolden and company were trade acquisitions.
Yeah.
And then Steve Smith, in the free agent market. And then I don't even ask me who the receivers were in Flacco's tenure after, Steve Smith left. I don't know. And I watched all those games. I don't remember. Do you remember? Let me think. I
I
know
mean,
like
like
I know like
Kamar
the
Ake,
guy from
Campanero, and stuff like that.
the guy from the Chiefs that we got who played for I think the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah, Jeremy Mack. I know we had Mike Wallace at a point, But anyways,
Yeah.
that's going off track. I don't mean to go off track. But my point is what I'm trying to make here is he clearly doesn't seem to have the know the know or the knowledge to draft these edges or whatever. Even though I thought he was the one who told Ozzie Newsome about Terrell Suggs or something along those lines. That could be another one of those Ravens fables that we that are happening at the castle. That LeBronish moments or like when Harbaugh was like, "Oh yeah, I knew Puka was gonna give me a good player."
He's lying. He
Hey,
don't
shut up,
even,
bro.
like, he
If
didn't
you
do
knew he was
that,
gonna
bro.
give him a player, then fucking draft him. You know. But but anyways, yeah, that'd be that. I would trade for an edge, personally, but I actually wouldn't trade for an edge. I'd trade for an interior defensive lineman. Um, Me personally, like getting a Dexter Lawrence. Me personally, I'd be happy with a trade deadline that consists of Jeffrey Simmons and Kevin Zeitler. You know, if you said to me that we're getting those two guys, I'd be like, Super Bowl back on, baby. Let's get it. Because I think that was one of the blunders in EDC's career was just letting him walk. You know, because in my opinion, out of all the three offensive linemen that they let walk, they should have at least brought one of them back. And it shouldn't have been John Simpson, even though he was a dog in the run game. And I, I liked Morgan Moses just because his mentality of just playing through that injury, even though playing through injuries isn't really a great thing, but like that whole thing, like he just wanted to play. I like that mentality. He never like missed a game and all that stuff. Like that was reliability. Sometimes that's your best ability, But at all those three, I would have kept Kevin Zeitler. I would have re mm, I would have drafted Rosengarten still, and then I maybe had Makari be the left guard. That's offensive line I think is infinitely better than what it was last year. And what's crazy is that offensive line last year is infinitely better than the line this year, and
Yeah,
that's crazy. And it's one player that makes a difference. It feels
yeah,
like Falele's regressed. Voorhees is I don't know what Voorhees is. And then, Rosengard's development's probably getting stunted by having, Falele next to him, for all that I know. But to get back on track again, um, yeah, to talk about the Rams game here, yeah, the defense definitely, I still have question marks, a little less now, but with the pass rush continuing to dip down, I mean, rushing with two in that one play, come on,
yeah,
come on. We're not high school, man. Come on.
yeah. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It is. And I just wanted to, quickly touch on the offense real quick. I'll ask you too, and then we can get into some stats. But moving to the offense, it's frustrating to watch, man. I just don't think Cooper Rush was a needed acquisition this
No.
offseason. And I'm not even trying to, overreact or anything, but I mean, the dude just can't, his decision making is just not good. And it's just crazy because, he basically started the whole season for the Dallas Cowboys when Dak was out. I mean, he was okay with them, but it was like for us, I don't know if it's our old line is just making him that bad or he's just turned into a high school quarterback, but it's just not working. And, I really feel like, this is crazy for me to say. I feel like if, Tyler Huntley started that game, probably had a better chance just because of his skill set of him running, even though he's slow as a snail, in my opinion. Just him running the football, it opens up a lot more opportunities for our offense. I feel like you can't put a quarterback like Cooper Rush in the Ravens offense and expect it to work the same way
No.
because it's built for a guy like Lamar, a scrambler, improviser, a guy who can, extend plays or run out the pocket and, run for the first down if need be. I feel like Snoop should have started and just that, I remember Harbs was talking about how he was going to rotate QBs. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. You can't rotate quarterbacks like they're running backs or something.
This ain't college, man.
That gimmick, exactly, that gimmick just doesn't work. That's like, it's
That's
just
not even college, man. That might be
stupid.
high school. That might be
Yeah,
Pee-wee.
like, yeah, it's just he's always thinking of these ways to like throw off the defense and what. It's dumb. It
You know what?
really is. Like,
I don't mean to interrupt, but you know what's crazy about that?
was up?
Cooper Rush had no idea about that. So either Harbaugh is lying or he was just gonna do that behind his
Yeah,
back.
yeah, and see, he probably was lying. That really makes him. That really called him out right there. He probably was lying about that just to make himself seem smart. That's what it is at the end of the day. He's
Oh
saying
yeah.
stuff just to make himself seem smart, but it's dumb. But anyways, the only positive about the offense that I would say is Derrick Henry. We finally got him going. I think that's one positive take into the bye week. Derrick Henry had a good game. We just pounded him, giving him the ball the whole first drive, and he did his thing. That kind of sounds crazy there, but you know what I'm saying? Like we just gave him the ball, he did his thing the whole first drive, and it kind of got derailed because of some dumb play calling towards the end, and we ended up getting the field goal. I don't think we got a field goal. I think we went for it and didn't get it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it was dumb.
yeah, it was just it was poor play calling. But yeah, Derek played good. I want to say Zay played good too, and I know he had two fumbles. I know he had that thing again towards the end of the game where he left before, he could talk to the media or whatever. But as much flack as Zay gets, he really wants to win the games. And I can respect that. He wants to be that guy to make the plays. And, at times he does a little bit too much, just like how Lamar does, but I can respect that he wants to be that guy to give the offense the spark and, to really, push things, forward. So, I think Zay played good as well. He just needs to, cover up the ball as everybody does on the team, and just continue to be himself moving forward. So that's pretty much what I got to say about the offense. What do you think?
To kind of piggyback off of what you not what you just said, but when you were talking about Cooper Rush and that signing, um, I'm gonna just say this. Um, Cooper Rush could fit in the Dallas Cowboys offense not only because they invest in their trenches, especially the offensive line. Maybe not the defensive line as much. They just traded away their best pass rusher, but really in the offensive line, I mean, they took guard first round last year. So they really want to protect their quarterback, and I get it. I understand why. Because when you have Dak sitting up there in the pocket, he can deliver strikes to CeeDee Lamb and now to George Pickens and to Jake Ferguson, and only thing they need really is a running game, which they don't really have. I don't think. I don't watch the Cowboys, so I don't really know. But for the last few years, I that's what I just have assumed. But he could fit in their offense because he's able to sit in the pocket. I really think if you have any quarterback sit in the pocket for long enough, they can find somebody open. Someone's gonna get open, especially when you have CeeDee Lamb and company. You know, this I'm gonna just tell you this thing. I've kind of started to come to the realization that I feel like Todd Monken does not. He may verbally say it, but I think actions speak louder than words. And I mean with how he runs this offense or how he calls these plays, because we keep trying to clamor for short yardage plays, but he understands something that a lot of people don't seem to understand about the Ravens is when the drive starts to linger on for more than 4, 5, 6 plays. That's when we see the miscues.
Yeah,
If you told me that the Ravens had an 18-yard drive that somehow scored a touchdown, it probably should have been a 10-yard drive. In there is probably a sack, a false start, a holding, almost fumble, all that type of stuff. The Ravens play a sloppy brand of football when you ask them to dink and dunk. These great teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and the Lions and all these teams, they get their fair share of explosive plays, but there's one thing that they can do that we can't, and that's drive down the field, dink and dunk down the field. That's what we cannot do because we're prone to mistakes. Our offensive line is too poor to be able to protect for a long drive. I mean, they might be winded for all I know. And I don't know. I feel like Todd Monken says this, but doesn't believe it. That's what I believe. He knows that our offensive line isn't good enough. That's why we focus so much on explosive plays, and we're good at them for the most part because, we have Lamar Jackson. He can extend plays. We have Zay Flowers. He can extend plays. We have Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Brashard Bateman. All those guys can help with the explosive playability. But the problem with the Ravens and why they always fail in the biggest moments is because, first of all, they're not physical at all, offensively or defensively. They can get pushed around really easily in the biggest games. And this isn't a big game, but, they got pushed around after, the Rams defense locked in. Their offensive line started to get pushed around. I mean, that first drive, we should have scored a touchdown, but two penalties, you set that drive back. And for some reason, when Ravens get penalties or they get a turnover, I don't know what happens in the psyche of the team offensively, but they just go absolutely, crazy, or they go absolutely just stupid the rest of the game. And I don't know what that is. I just don't. Like, I don't know if they need a sports psychologist down there in the field telling them that's all right. It's just a mistake. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but like, God forbid Lamar throws a pick in a playoff game. The whole game's going to
yeah,
shit. You know, like the rest of the half is gonna look terrible. I mean, just look at the Bills game. Meaning the divisional round. You had the pick by Lamar, and then you have, the drop by Andrews, and then the fumble by Lamar. Like they locked in, the rest of the game, but like they still have these consecutive sequences of struggling, and it's just the psyche of the team, and I think that is a reflection of the weak mentality that Harbaugh is enabling right now. It's because, in my opinion, he's coddling this very piss poor offensive line. Like, to me, it really feels like those guys have no pride in their craft. Like, and I don't, and then you have George, Warhop coming up here saying that he's seeing improvement. What are you looking at, man? Like, really, what are you looking at? Like, what are you seeing that we're not? Like, I really genuinely wonder what goes on in there. And I've said this the last two videos, but I don't get it. Like it feels like they're coddling. I'm sorry. If I'm Harbaugh or Warhop, I'm in there being like, what are you doing in this rep? I would grab them individually and sit them down and be like, what are you doing on this rep? Why are you guarding nobody? Why are you on the ground here? I mean, on the goal line play, like three of our offensive linemen are on the ground. What good are you doing on there? Why are you so soft? Why are you so weak in this scenario? Like come on. And then, Linderbaum's answer, they wanted it more than us. Like like what?
Not a good
No,
sign. Yeah.
like you're in your home. You should want it more than them. You're the underdogs here. You should want it more than them. That's a weak answer for a weak group of guys, honestly. And like I said, they're coddled. They're almost like spoiled children at this point, where it's like they can do no wrong. We need to treat them like middle children or something, or like the older children. Start getting in their ass about everything. Like come on, like I'm sorry, it's just a week. And then even like earlier in the preseason when Harbaugh was saying that it's a short-sighted way to say it's Super Bowl or bust. Like that, it's a mentality issue with this team. It really is a mentality issue with this team, and it's just festering. I really hope that they can set stuff straight. I mean, just even look how many years it took, for the Lamar Jackson led Ravens to figure out the Steelers. It took us just till last year. Like, why did it take us? Me and you and every other fan on Twitter was pretty much clamoring for this certain way we've played against them because we've been better than the Steelers the last few seasons. Probably the last 5, 6 seasons. The year they won 11-0, we're still better than them. I don't care what anybody says. They won a lot of those games by a lot of bullshit ass luck. But look, I'll be real. We were the better team. But there's one thing that they can do better than us. They can outcoach. Well, I guess two things. They can outcoach us and they can out physical us. Those are
Yep.
two things that they can do. And the Bills weren't better than us last year. The Chiefs weren't better than us the year before. The Titans weren't even better than us back in 2019. But what can they do that we can't? We can't out physical teams. We can't out coach teams. That's crazy to think about. That two times in the Harbaugh tenure with Lamar Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks to ever step foot on the football field, the fact that you two times you've been embarrassed off your home field as number one seed says a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that definitely does say a lot, and it's disappointing when you think about it because you're supposed to learn from your mistakes. You're supposed to look at your past losses and find those key details within those losses on what you could do better. And it just doesn't seem like we do that, and it kind of goes into what I said before. I don't think we look at our past losses against some teams. I think we just go into each game for a whole new fresh mindset. It's just like
Yeah,
you can look at your past mistakes against them.
yeah,
But
absolutely. And it doesn't seem
it's
like
me.
they do it because I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing there, man. I
Yeah,
don't,
I
especially
don't
this
know.
year. I really don't know what they're doing in there. Like they must be, you know, taking naps or something. I don't know what they're doing, man.
Yeah, but we can get into these stats.
I bet.
See this atrocity.
Damn. Fucking Maryland defense is balling out tonight. They're carrying this offense.
I might need Coach Loxley to be the defensive.
No, 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 no. We're not doing that. We're
Bro,
not going from one doofus to another doofus.
be the New Mexico games all over again.
Well, I don't even want to see him in the Ravens. I'm even mad when he's at the preseason games. Like, he don't infect us with his diseases, bro. Stop. Like, get
Yeah, the
away.
whole standard would change.
Anyways, you can go ahead.
All right, so starting with our passing, Cooper Rush, he went 11 for 19 for 72 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. Just embarrassing. He couldn't even finish the game.
Surprised he didn't get
Tyler
sacked.
Huntley. Oh yeah, he didn't even get sacked either. Wow, 24 QBR. Jeez. Tyler Huntley went 10 for 15, 68 yards. It's kind of funny because we laughed at him because he threw away with the game on the line. He threw away the ball out of bounds.
That was funny. That was funny. I was like, dude, really? Like,
Yeah, he didn't even try on that play, and that's just a whole nother thing itself. Moving on to the rushing, like we mentioned earlier, Derrick Henry really got going. 24 carries, which is the most amount of carries he's had this season in a single game. 122 yards. He averaged 5.1 yards per carry. Wish he got that touchdown, but he got stuffed at the goal line. Which is embarrassing. We couldn't get him in. We could not get him in for a touchdown at the 1 yard line. Come on
I
now.
want to interject here. Where is that play from Henry where he threw touchdowns?
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
when
the
he's
one.
on the
I'm not
Titans.
talking about the one where he almost threw a pick versus the Lions. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the right over the.
Yep. Yep. I don't know, man. There's just I don't know. Tyler Huntley, he had 3 carries for 39 yards. Justice Hill had 6 carries for 16 yards. Mark Andrews had 3 carries for 2 yards prior to tush pushes. And Cooper Rush. And I just want to say, man, I really wish we would have gave Keaton Mitchell, a lot more carries into this game. Looks like he might be traded. I heard he's odd man and out in the backfield, which really
Yeah,
just pisses me off,
that's crazy.
because he has so much talent, and I mean, Harv just won't allow him to show it. So it is what it is, man. He's
He's
probably
in
going
the
to kill us if we
doghouse for
play
some
him.
reason, and I don't know why.
I don't know why either. This dumb doghouse that Harbaugh has. But moving on to the receiving, Zay Flowers had 6 receptions for 46 yards. Justice Hill had 5 receptions for 28 yards. Mark Andrews had 4 for 24. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 for 20. Derrick Henry had 1 for 8. Rashad Bateman had 1 for 8. I feel bad for Bate this year because
I know.
his stats are terrible so far. But it's not on him. We just haven't been really scheming for him. And Isaiah Likely, continuing his slow start to the season, he had 2 for 6. When it came to his receiving. So you know, just really Zay dominated and Mark Andrews in our passing game for the most part, which is probably why it's so predictable.
Yeah,
Um, when it
yeah.
comes to our fumbles, Cooper Rush had one. Zay Flowers had a couple actually. Zay Likely had one, and John Jenkins, forced one. So,
Yep. Our leading tackler on the day, I'm sorry, to transition on to the defense, our leading tackler on the day was Trent Simpson. He had 9 total tackles. He also had a half sack, pass deflection, and a QB hit. Teddy Buchanan had 9 tackles as well. He had a half sack, 1 tackle for loss, and a QB hit. Did you see Teddy Buchanan's dad on Twitter
yeah,
fighting
so
McCole Jackson? Did you see that? That was
yeah,
funny. That was funny. And I will say, Trent Simpson played. He actually played a pretty decent game on Sunday.
yeah, oh yeah,
I'll say he really looked like he progressed a little bit. He looked pretty good. But anyways, the new addition to Lloyd Gilman had 7 total tackles. He also did something that none of our safeties have done at all this year, which is run up on a run play. I've never seen that until this year, until him. But anyways, Malachi Starks had 5 total tackles. Kyle Hamilton had 4 total tackles. John Jenkins had 3 total tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, a QB hit, and he had the forced fumble and recovery. He got up and tried to run that bitch back. Mike Green had 3 total tackles. He had a tackle for loss. Brent Urban had 2 total tackles. He had a tackle for loss. I think he left the game early. Nate Wiggins he actually had a pretty good game too. He had 2 total tackles. He was shadowing Devontae Adams. Marlon Humphrey had 2 total tackles and a pass deflection. He should have had a pick. I don't know what he was doing. Joseph Noteboom, our left tackle, had a tackle. Okay, I'm not reading all that because it's starting to become our offense, and that's not okay. Um, let me read this off, and then I'll get it set up afterwards. First downs. The Rams had 15 to our 19, so we somehow beat them on that. They had 10 first downs to our 6. We had 4 rushing first. They had 4 rushing first downs to our 11. They had 1 from penalties. We had 2. They were 4 for 10 on third down. We were 7 for 17. They were 1 for 2 on fourth down. We were 2 for 6. Damn, that sucks. 2 for 6. Um, They ran 51 total plays to our 75, so that's something I want to see more of. We need to hold the ball more. Um, Total yards, because our best defense is gonna be our offense. Total yards, they had 241 to our 296. They had 10 total drives to our 9. They averaged 4.7 yards per play. We averaged 3.9. Um, they had 74 rushing yards to our 179. They were 2 for 5 in the red zone. We were over 3. They had 6 penalties for 40 yards. We had 7 for 80. Just inexcusable, man. They had 1 turnover to our 3. We had 3? Oh, the pick. That's right. Um, they held the ball for 22 minutes and 5 seconds. We had it for 37 minutes and 55 seconds. I don't know how we lost that game with all those statistics, but uh, I don't know, but just crazy. But anyways, we're gonna move on to predictions since there's gonna be no pregame this week. There will be a video up probably about bye week possible trade candidates, all that stuff. So we'll have that out. But to do this before Sunday's games, to recap actually last week, you were technically closest to the prediction. You predicted we'd lose 17 to 34, which we lost 17 to 3, but close enough. I predicted 14 to 63, and that obviously wasn't anywhere close. But to move on to the predictions, you went 11 and 3 last week, so you get a bounce back week. I went 10 and 4. I'm continuing my hot streak. So I had better upset predictions, but so anyways, we'll go into the predictions here. So you can give me your predictions, and I'll let you at it.
So I'll go with the Patriots, the Chiefs. I'll go with I'll go with the Browns. Um, you know what? I think the Chargers are going to bounce back in that game. Rams. I think Panthers. I want I want to see the Giants win that game, honestly. I would say the Texans, Eagles, Bears, Packers. I'll go with the Cowboys. Let's go with the Falcons. And let's go with the Bucks.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna agree with you here. I'm actually gonna go Raiders. I'm gonna Dolphins, and I'm gonna regret that Raiders pick. I'll know you that. I'll tell you that. I'm gonna go Colts. I'm gonna go Broncos, Seahawks, Vikings. Did you see the post they made about this? Like, it's a QB battle you don't want to miss, and it's like Caleb Williams and
Spencer
Spencer
Rattler.
Rattler. Like, okay, I think I want to miss that actually. Oh, they don't have Purdy, so then I mean that wouldn't make a difference anyways. But that's my predictions for this week. So hopefully I have another good week. Anyways, you can close out the video. Oh, before you do, I decided to do a new thing here where I'm going to be posting a short a day. So make sure you guys check those out. They've been killing it so far for us. They each one of them for the last 3 days got at least 1.1 thousand views. So I'm gonna hopefully you guys continue to eat those up. I'm just happy to see they get that back to back days or back to back to back days, but 1,000 views short. So I'm gonna keep posting
Yeah,
those out.
yeah, and that was a great idea, by Jared. I saw that you texted me about him, and I see it, how good they've been doing. So, shout out to Jared in the comments. Make sure you guys comment down below how much you love Jared, guys. He's really been grinding, for our channel. So just comment down some appreciating for him below. You know, I know I will. I'll make some fake accounts. No, I'm just playing.
I didn't know
But
where that was going. I thought you were. I didn't know where that was going.
I you'll know where it's going later. Now I'm just playing. But let's close out this video. That was that was our video. Just game recap. Against our Rams game. We have the Bears coming next. A good Bears team. Very high powered, explosive offense, and luckily we'll get Lamar back. So that's our shot right there. That's all it takes for us to have a fair shot. We'll see what we can do, but that's what we got for you guys today in this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below what was your thoughts of the game. What impressed you about the defense or the offense? What specific player disappointed you? Just let us know that all in the comments down below. Also, check out our social medias, our Instagram, our TikTok, our Twitter. Also, like, again, another shout out to Jared again when it comes to our thumbnails. He's really been upgrading our thumbnail game and making them look extra spicy, extra good. So make sure you show some love down below in the comments for that. And also, Casual Cinema, we're going to be seeing a movie soon. I've been throwing out, we've been negotiating, some some ideas how we're going to go to the movies and all that. We're still working on that, but we're going to be seeing a movie soon, and we're going to put it on that channel there. So make sure you go subscribe, Casual Cinema. That's all we got for you guys today. We're Birds of Prey Sports, and we're out.
Right.